Hi everyone, welcome to my very first book club video. I'm so excited to be here. This is a really big deal for me because as someone that really enjoys reading, because I feel like that's kind of the only way that I really learn. Like I can sit and watch videos on YouTube all day long, but until I actually read something is when it really sinks in. But that's just me. But I really hope that you guys are gonna either join me in this little journey of mine by actually reading along or at least getting something from these videos. So the first book that we're going to be reading is the Kybalion, which I had mentioned several times in some of the weekly bumps. And for this video specifically, we're going to be splitting this book up into only two videos because it is relatively short. Sections 1 through 7, and then we're going to move forward for the rest of the book next week. Okay, so what I want you to do is, if you're not reading the book, feel free to still watch and participate and to take some of the concepts and the ideas back to your meditations and really think and ponder on them. I am going to do my best to summarize these chapters. Okay, so we'll see how it goes. I'm really interested to hear your thoughts, to hear how it inspires you, or to hear what kind of comes to you during this time. And then in the third week, we'll do a discussion video where I'll pull up your comments. We'll talk about them. Maybe I'll do a live. I'm not sure exactly. We'll see. And we'll just kind of go from there. So it'll be fun. I'm excited. So let's go ahead and get started. It's just a PowerPoint presentation, nothing like really fancy. We'll see. Hopefully, I know the graphics are like, I was like putting it together. I'm like, oh God. But hopefully it will at least add a little bit to those of you who aren't reading the book. You can read the little things, hear me say the words, and sort of follow along. So let's go ahead and get started. Thanks. Welcome to the first book club video. Thanks so much for being here. This time we are doing the Kybalion. We are reading the Kybalion together, and this book was written by the three initiates. So let's begin with an introduction to the Hermetic philosophy. Before we delve into the philosophy itself, let's talk about the three initiates. Who are they? Unfortunately, we're never going to know exactly who they are. They don't reveal their identity in any way. We don't even know for sure if there's actually three people. It could be one person or a much larger group of people. But for whatever reason, these keepers or masters of the ancient teachings decided that the world was ready to receive a summarized, let's put an asterisk there, a summarized consolidation of a few of the basic principles of the universe. Now, these teachings are essentially the building blocks of the occult, okay? And the word occult is often misunderstood. It is derived, from the Latin occultare, and you kind of have a few options there as I break it down, secret or concealed. We often refer to it as the hidden knowledge or the knowledge that has been stripped away from the masses. Hermetic teachings have been kept over the last tens of centuries. They've originated from the great Hermes Trismegistus, or the scribe of the gods. Hermes was around or alive during the first dynasties in Egypt, as far as we know. Legend says that he was to have lived approximately 300 years, although we could never really know for sure. All fundamental and basic teachings embedded in the esoteric teachings of every race can be traced back to Hermes. He had students from all over the world that would travel to Egypt specifically to learn with himself, and his masters, okay? We refer to his teachings as the Great Reconciler. It's sort of the most, or the common denominator between all religions of the earth. And those of you who are students of religion will be able to perceive Hermetic teachings in every religion, whether it's a dead religion or whether it's very much active today. Now, original truths have been kept intact by a few men in each age. These men, we assume men, we don't know if there are women involved, but they have refused many people of what they refer to as half-developed students and followers, because very few are ready to comprehend and master the knowledge. And the people that they entrust with this knowledge are going to be responsible for maintaining it and keeping it alive. So they are very selective. Who are these masters that keep the teachings? Again, we will probably never know because they don't seek approval. They don't seek followers. They themselves remain hidden in the shadows of our world. They reserve their pearls of wisdom for the few elect who recognize their value and who wear them in their crowns instead of casting them before the materialistic, vulgar swine who would trample them in the mud and mix them with their disgusting mental food. That's a quote directly from the book. For those of you who are reading along, you will recognize that quote. And that's a pretty powerful statement, And I think a lot of times the question comes up as to why do these people feel that they have to keep it from the world, and we'll get to that in just a moment. The lips of wisdom are closed except to the ears of understanding. And this is a quote that they kind of hit home in this first section here. They want you to know and to understand that many people will pick up this book and they will read it. But it ends there. Only people that are truly open to truth are going to receive truth. They state very clearly that the spirit of persecution is not yet dead. And I think if we looked around and were honest with ourselves, that's very, very true even still today. Let's see, exposure of certain teachings would bring upon the teachers persecution and potentially execution. And they use the words, crucify or crucifixion here. And I think the fear is that they don't want the knowledge to die with them. They don't want the knowledge to be persecuted out of existence. And they say here, if you are a true student, you'll be able to work out and apply these principles. If not, then you must develop yourself into one, for otherwise the Hermetic teachings will be as words, words, words to you. Quote the three initiates. So it will just be nonsense, or it will be silly, or it will be written off or ignored. But there are very deep lessons here if you seek them. From Egypt come fundamental esoteric and occult philosophies that have influenced every culture and nation known to man. Ancient countries partook liberally at the feast of knowledge which the Hierophants and masters of the land of Isis so freely provided for those who came prepared to partake of the great store of mystic and occult lore which the masterminds of that ancient land had gathered together. People entered the Egyptian lodge of the mystics as neophytes and left as hierophants and adepts and masters. Let's talk a little bit more about Hermes, okay? We don't have too much knowledge about who this person truly was, but we know he is the father of occult wisdom. Also, astrology and alchemy are included in that as well. Okay, details of his life are lost to history. Now, let me go back one step, because the astrology and alchemy is to the occult world what astronomy and chemistry are to the science world as we know it today. Okay, so just so you make that connection there. His last incarnation on this planet is not known, but it has been fixed at the early days of the oldest dynasties in Egypt, long before the days of Moses. Some of the Jewish traditions claim that Abraham himself acquired a portion of his mystic knowledge from Hermes. Egyptians deified Hermes. They called him Tot. I've heard it pronounced Tot. I've heard it pronounced Thoth or Thoth. I've heard it 3 different ways, so I apologize if I do mispronounce it. Greece called him the god of wisdom. We've all heard of Hermes, and we've certainly all heard of Mercury with the Roman mythology there. So it's the same person, okay? Trismegistus is translated as the thrice great, the great great, or the greatest great. essentially the fount of wisdom. And Hermetic is often used in the sense of secret, similar to a cult. They can somewhat be used interchangeably. So when I say something is Hermetic, it kind of refers to the secret or the hidden aspect there. Hermetists do not believe in casting pearls before swine, as we saw that quote from earlier, but they hold the milk for babes and meat for strong men. And this is an analogy that can be found in many religions, especially the Christian scriptures, but it was something that had been used by the Egyptians long before the Christian era. The teachings have been held secret as ancient teachers warned against allowing the secret doctrine to become crystallized into a creed, as seen in India and Persia. The wisdom degenerated and was largely lost as teachers became priests and mixed theology with philosophy. In general, teachings became polluted and associated with superstitions, cults, creeds, and gods, as we see so heavily with Greece, Rome, and Christianity. Up till this day, as far as we know, teachings have only been passed down lip to ear. When they have been written down, they were deeply veiled in terms of alchemy and astrology, shrouded in symbolism. They were avoiding persecutions of the theologians of the Middle Ages who fought with fire and sword, stake, gibbet, and cross, which makes sense. When we think of the Middle Ages, since the founding of the Catholic Church, the persecution was so severe that it makes sense that they sort of went underground. Even today, there are very few reliable books on Hermetic philosophy. The Kybalion, this book that we're reading, is merely a compilation of certain basic Hermetic doctrines. It's not the Kybalion itself, okay? It's merely excerpts. But up till now, there are no known written sources of the true Kybalion. Here are a few quotes. They all say the same thing, but I will read them all to you. Where fall the footsteps of the master? The ears of those ready for his teaching open wide. When the ears of the student are ready to hear, then cometh the lips to fill them with wisdom. When the pupil is ready to receive the truth, then will this little book come to him or her. Such is the law, the Hermetic principle of cause and effect, in its aspect of the law of attraction, will bring lips and ear together, pupil and book in company, so mote it be. The three initiates. So let's move in and discuss what the 7 Hermetic principles actually are. The principles of truth are 7. He who knows these understandingly possesses the magic key before whose touch all the doors of the temple fly open. The Kybalion. The principles are mentalism, correspondence, vibration, polarity, rhythm, cause and effect, and gender. In today's lesson, we are only going to make our way up through mentalism, and next week we'll begin with correspondence. Mentalism. The all is mind. The universe is mental. The Kybalion. Let's define the all, or in other words, spirit. The substantial reality underlying all outward manifestations and appearances which we know under the term of the material universe, the phenomena of life, matter, energy, etc. Spirit is unknowable and undefinable, but which may be considered and thought of as a universal, infinite, living mind. And we'll get much deeper into this when we get to the section about the all. The phenomenal world or universe is simply a mental creation of the all, subject to the laws of created things, and that the universe as a whole and in its parts or units has its existence in the mind of the all, in which mind we live and move our being. Energy, power, and matter are subordinate to the mastery of mind. It's a very important point that I wish that you would think for just a moment, meditate on this concept. Energy, power, and matter are subordinate to the mastery of mind. It's very powerful once it settles. He who grasps the truth of the mental nature of the universe is well advanced on the path to mastery. Without this master key, mastery itself is impossible. Okay, let's move on to correspondence. The famous quote we all know and love, as above, so below, as below, so above, the Kybalion. There is always a correspondence between the laws and phenomena of the various planes of being and life. Now, we'll get more into this as well, this concept of the planes. It's not just the planes of our physical world that we know and understand, but it is each plane of all frequencies and all vibrations, even those vibrations and frequencies that we do not operate in. Okay? The unknowable planes of existence can be understood by applying the principle of correspondence. This principle gives us the ability to pry aside the obstacles which hide from view. By studying the monad, he understands the archangel. For those of you who don't know what a monad is, it's like a very simple life form or a single cell organism. The principle of vibration. Nothing rests, everything moves, everything vibrates. The Kybalion. Modern science corroborates this notion. There's no argument here. The higher the vibration, the higher the position in the scale from base matter to spirit. Spirit's vibrations are so high, it appears to be motionless. Gross forms of matter vibrate so low as to seem at rest. Between the poles, there are millions upon millions of degrees. He who understands the principle of vibration has grasped the scepter of power. Principle of polarity. Everything is dual, everything has poles, everything has its pair of opposites. Like and unlike are the same. Opposites are identical in nature, but different in degree. Extremes meet. All truths are but half-truths. All paradoxes may be reconciled. The Kybalion. Heat and cold, although opposites, are really the same thing. There is no one point where one begins and one ends. Light, dark, black versus white, hard versus soft, high versus low. It is possible to change the vibrations of hate to the vibrations of love in one's own mind. And, this is critical, in the minds of others. The art of polarization becomes a phase of mental alchemy known and practiced by the ancient and modern Hermetic masters. Whoops, I guess that was it. That was kind of a short and sweet one. Rhythm. Everything flows out and in. Everything has its tides. All things rise and all things fall. The pendulum swing manifests in everything. The measure of the swing to the right is the measure of the swing to the left. Rhythm compensates. The Kybalion. This law manifests in the creation and destruction of worlds, in the rise and fall of nations, in the life of all things, and finally in the mental states of man. And for us as individuals, that's the most important one. Hermetists have learned how to use the principle instead of being used by it. The master polarizes himself at the point at which he desires to rest, and then neutralizes the rhythmic swing of the pendulum, which would tend to carry him to the other pole. This is what we call self-mastery. Now, this may seem very basic. Actually, all of these principles may seem very basic in nature. and you think, okay, it might just be positive thinking. It's just changing my mind, thinking about love instead of hate, and in concept, it is simple. But when we look around, you don't have to be a quote unquote spiritual person to understand the concepts of self-mastery. Okay? Principle of cause and effect. Every cause has its effect. Every effect has its cause. Everything happens according to law. Chance is but a name for law not recognized, and there are many planes of causation, but nothing escapes the law. The Kybalion. Masses of people are obedient to their environments, making them pawns in the chessboard of life. Masters rise to a plane above, dominating their own moods, characters, qualities, and powers. They become movers instead of pawns. They obey the causation of the higher planes, but they help to rule on their own plane. Finally, the principle of gender. Gender is in everything. Everything has its masculine and feminine principles. Gender manifests on all planes. No creation, physical, mental, or spiritual, is possible without this principle. Everything and every person contains the two elements. And when we speak of duality, this is part of it, our own feminine and masculine within us. On the physical plane, our world, the principle manifests as sex, but on the higher planes, it takes higher forms, but the principle is the same. Mental transmutation. Mind, as well as metals and elements, may be transmuted from state to state, degree to degree, condition to condition, pole to pole, vibration to vibration. True Hermetic transmutation is a mental art. People who are considered masters at mental transmutation, we refer to as alchemists. Mental transmutation means the art of changing and transforming mental states, forms, and conditions into others. The ancient Egyptians possessed the inner knowledge, transcendental psychology, astrology, and alchemy, as well as the outer knowledge, psychology, astronomy, and chemistry. Whereas in our recent history, we have been largely focused on the outer knowledge. Although the inner knowledge, especially at this particular point in time, according to Western astrology with Jupiter and Scorpio, we are seeing a mass wave of this inner knowledge becoming more mainstream. Remember, the universe is mental, and if the universe is mental, then mental transmutation must be changing the conditions of the universe. This is the magic referred to in many ancient texts. Can we read that again? If the universe is mental, then mental transmutation must be changing the conditions of the universe. This is the magic referred to in many ancient texts. I wanted to reread that because it's important for us to understand the power of our thoughts, the power of the frequencies that we emit just by thinking about things. None but advanced mental alchemists have been able to attain the degree of power necessary to control the grosser physical conditions, such as the control of the elements of nature. But these men do exist today. And if you have read the book The Alchemist, at the very end when he creates that big storm, that's essentially what this is referring to. And in the book, they do go a little bit further in detail about how this is truly possible. Every material condition, depending upon the minds of other people, may be changed or transmuted in accordance with their earnest desire, will, and treatments of person desiring changed conditions of life. And this can be used for good or evil. It's important to note that. That's the duality. Okay, as mentioned previously, we're going to talk about the all. Under and back of the universe of time, space, and change, is ever to be found the substantial reality, the fundamental truth. The Kybalion. Few vocabulary words. Substance, that which underlies all outward manifestations, the essence, the essential reality, the thing in itself. Substantial, actually existing, being the essential element or being real. And reality, the state of being real, true, enduring, valid, fixed, permanent, and actual. Under and behind all outward appearances or manifestations, there must always be a substantial reality. This is law. Nothing is, but everything is becoming or changing. The law of rhythm is in constant operation. There is no reality enduring quality. Nothing is permanent but change. Nothing endures but change. All of these changing things must be manifestations of some underlying power, some substantial reality. This is agreed upon by all philosophers and theologists. Hermetic traditions refer to this substantial reality as the all. The inner nature of the all is unknowable and believe it must never be knowable. Speculations as to the inner nature are considered laughable as mortals try to grasp the secret of the infinite. Do not be foolish to ascribe human personality traits and qualities to the all. Human emotions, feelings, characteristics are not applicable, and such ideas are not worthy of grown men and women. Let's do a few important distinctions that they make in the book. Religion versus theology is one. Let's define religion. Intuitional realization of the existence of the all and one's relationship to it. Theology, the attempts of men to ascribe personality, qualities, and characteristics to the all, and their assumption of the office of middlemen between the all and people. Philosophy versus metaphysics. Philosophy, inquiry after knowledge of things knowable and thinkable. Metaphysics, attempt to carry the inquiry over and beyond the boundaries and into regions unknowable and unthinkable. Religion and philosophy mean to us, meaning the three initiates, things having roots in reality, while theology and metaphysics seem like broken reeds, rooted in the quicksands of ignorance and affording naught but the most insecure support for the mind or soul of man. So they tend to stick toward religion and philosophy. Okay? In respect to the idea that the all is unknowable and inconceivable to man, we adhere to the following. They refer to it as the report of reason. The all must be all that really is. The all must be infinite, for it is nothing else to define, confine, bound, limit, or restrict the all. It must be infinite in time or eternal. It must have always continuously existed, for there is nothing else to have ever created it. And something can never evolve from nothing. And if it had ever not been, even for a moment, it would not be now. It must continually exist forever, for there is nothing to destroy it, and it can never not be, even for a moment, because something can never come from nothing. The all must be immutable, or not subject to change in its real nature, for there is nothing to work changes upon it. It cannot be added to or subtracted from. It must have always been and must always remain. This is the philosophy of it, the reality of the circumstances. And this is interesting because it seems like such common sense, but it is important to define it as well. Is the all matter, energy, or force? Matter? No, which I think that's kind of an easy one. Modern science itself has abandoned the theory of matter. Is it energy or force? No. Energy and force are devoid of life and mind. And life and mind can never evolve from blind energy or force because nothing can rise higher than its source. Nothing is evolved unless it is involved. Nothing manifests in the effect unless it is in the cause. So what is there that is higher than matter or energy that we know exists in the universe? Life and mind. So is the all life and mind? Yes and no. Or I say no, ... and yes. No, because it is not the life and mind as we petty mortals know them to be. I'm taking the word petty directly from the book, but in the grand scheme of things, I could see why they chose that word. But also, yes, the all is what we call living mind, a mind that is far, far, far above that which we know by these words. Infinite living mind, as opposed to our understanding of finite mind. The illumined souls call this spirit. The all is infinite living mind. It's important to repeat that. I don't know why when I was first reading this, or actually reading this for the second time, I envisioned like a little cartoon, in one of the comic strips with the little thought bubble. But inside the thought bubble, are the infinite universes instead. The mental universe. The universe is mental, held in the mind of the all, the Kybalion. This is the thought bubble I was talking about. So what is spirit? Let's review a little bit, I suppose. Spirit transcends our understanding. We must accept that we cannot fully understand it or stop thinking of the matter entirely. What is the universe? It is neither the all, nor is it nothing. The universe exists as a creation of the all, but it is not made from or of the all because the all cannot be subtracted from. How does man create? Utilize the power of the principle of correspondence here. The universe and all it contains is a mental creation of the all. Verily, indeed, all is mind. The all creates in its infinite mind countless universes which exist for eons of time, and yet to the all, the creation, development, decline, and death of 1,000,000 universes is as the time of the twinkling of an eye, the Kybalion. The infinite mind of the all is the womb of universes, the Kybalion. The all in itself is above every law, including those of time and space. It is the law from which the laws proceed, and it is not subject to them. Now, I probably should have included a picture of the Justice card from the Major Arcana, because I feel like that card speaks to this exactly. It is above the law, including those of time and space. It is the law from which the laws proceed, and it is not subject to them. It is the enforcer. There are regions and planes of life far higher than ours, and beings compared to which we earthbound mortals are as the slimy life forms that dwell on the ocean's bed when compared to man. Yet there are beings with powers and attributes higher than man has ever dreamed of the gods possessing. These beings were lower than us, and man will rise higher than even those. Such is the destiny of man. At the end, the all will draw us back into itself, and we will know the whole truth. Again, the Justice card. So here's the divine paradox. It's important. This is a very, very important point. The truly wise, knowing the nature of the universe, use laws against laws, the higher against the lower, and by the art of alchemy transmute that which is undesirable into that which is worthy, and thus triumph. The Kybalion. We must consider the concept of the universe from the two poles, the absolute and the relative points of view. The absolute. The universe is in the nature of an illusion, a dream, a phantasmagoria as compared to the all itself. Nothing is real except the all. And modern science corroborates this. With the latest discoveries in quantum physics, we have this concept of what we call the holographic universe. And here it is in 1908 being published in this book written by three people that we will never know who it was. But this is what they're saying, that the universe is an illusion. The absolute truth. Things as the mind of God knows them. Again, the Justice card. Now, relative. Viewing the universe through mortal faculties, the universe is real. We cannot evade the laws of physics. If we stub our toe, it hurts. And that's kind of the downfall of some people, just because we know the universe is holographic or illusionary in nature, doesn't mean that we can just stop existing in this reality. The relative truth. Things is the highest reason of man can understand them. We cannot deny the existence of matter, and we cannot escape the laws. It is a mistake to view the world as purely an unreality, for you will wander around like dream people wandering around in a world of dreams. Rather, we must follow the example of the masters, use law against laws, the higher against the lower, and by the art of alchemy transmute that which is undesirable into that which is worthy, and thus triumph. The Kybalion. So here we go. The all in all. While all is in the all, it is equally true that the all is in all. To him who truly understands this truth hath come great knowledge. The Kybalion. Now that may seem confusing, especially if you're not reading the book or haven't read the book yet. So let's go ahead and go into it. So we're given an example. Just take a moment, close your eyes, and imagine something. Anything, okay? A person, an idea, a picture you would draw, or that thing you would create. So if it's in your mind, does it exist? Even though holographic or illusionary in nature, does the image exist? So here's another example. Just think on that, meditate on that for just a moment, okay? So Othello, Iago, Hamlet, Lear, Richard III, characters that existed in the mind of Shakespeare. Shakespeare, therefore, gave these characters their vitality, their spirit, their action. Do these characters have a personal spirit independent of their creator? Or do these characters merely represent the spiritual and mental power of their creator? The law of paradox explains that both are true. Othello is both Othello and also Shakespeare, and yet Othello may be Shakespeare, but Shakespeare is not identical with Othello. The spirit of my creator is inherent within me, and yet I am not he. The all is in the earthworm, and yet the earthworm is far from being the all. Something to think about, something to meditate on. In the degree that man realizes the existence of the indwelling spirit immanent within his being, so will he rise in the spiritual scale of life. This is what spiritual development means. the recognition, realization, and the manifestation of the Spirit within us. Try to remember this last definition, that of spiritual development. It contains the truth of true religion. So here it is in black and white. This is what spiritual development means: the recognition, the realization, and the manifestation of the Spirit within us. This is why meditation is so critical, helps us with the recognition and the realization part. There are many degrees of existing in the universe. We'll discuss those next week as we go into the planes of existence. And they depend on the advancement of beings in the scale. The scale represents the absolute lowest form of matter to the highest, being separated only by the thinnest division from the all. Some refer to these as the archangels. We are all on the path. All progress is a returning home. All is upward and onward. For those of you who might be in a little bit of a slump, that's a message of unbelievable hope, right? All is upward and onward. When an artist creates, so does the all create our universe. Difference in placement on the scale, of course. And that's why I was talking about the law of correspondence before. I think I kind of skipped over it. Applying the law of correspondence the way a human or an artist creates, so does the all create our universe. When we are so wrapped up in our creations, we call this the involuntary stage of creation, or the outpouring of the divine energy. The evolutionary state is what we call the indrawing. Let's go over the vocabulary. Outpouring. Creative forces manifest compactly and as a whole. The vibrations become lower and lower and lower until finally the urge to create ceases and we begin the indrawing stage. Indrawing. There is manifested the law of individualization, which is the tendency to separate into units of force, so that finally that which left the all as unindividualized energy returns to its source as countless highly developed units of life, having rising higher and higher and higher in this scale by means of physical, mental, and spiritual evolution. Hermetists use the word meditation to describe the process of mental creation of the universe in the mind of the all, wherein divine attention is given to the creation of the universe. Imagine the all is a state of meditation, creating the universe. As it awakens from its meditation, starts the upward movement of all beings back toward the all. Life appears and manifests in higher and higher forms, and mind becomes more and more evident. Vibrations become higher and higher. Eventually, the all withdraws from its meditation, and all is withdrawn back into the all from which it emerged. The mystery, the spirit of each soul, is not annihilated at the end of this process, but infinitely expanded. Created and creator are merged as one. So why does the all create the universe? The inevitable question. It's not worth our time to contemplate the answer, as our minds are not powerful enough to formulate an answer. The all is above all laws, and therefore does not succumb to the principle of cause and effect. The all does not take on human characteristics, such as because it wanted to, which implies desire, which is too lowly. Metaphysical speculation is futile, which is why they stick mostly to religion and philosophy. They say they only recognize the question here merely to show the absurdity of the ordinary answers of metaphysics and theology. So that is it for this week. Please leave your comments, ideas, questions, concerns in the comment section down below so that we can address it in the third video, which will be the discussion video. Thank you so much, and I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.